You're listening to Ciminelli Chats, where we aim to share the latest Ciminelli company news, real estate industry insights, and announcements. I'm your host, Grace Johnson, and today I am joined by my colleague and co-host, Mackenzie Tierney. On this episode, we are getting into the nitty-gritty of sustainable business practices and responsible governance as it pertains to Western New York and corporate responsibility. This past year, Ciminelli created an internal corporate stewardship team to track the company's commitment to environmental sustainability, social responsibility, and transparency in governance, and showcase its collective efforts to enhance positive community investment in Western New York. If you're keyed into the corporate world, you have most likely heard more and more conversations bubbling up about environmental practices, social responsibility, and mindful governance. But these topics can mean a variety of things depending on the company and the industry. Today, we hope to clearly define what these topics mean for Western New York and how local businesses can be conscious stewards in this community. We are very excited to have Dr. Alexandra Holland, the Executive Director at Western New York Sustainable Business Roundtable, and Zach Melas, Vice President of Corporate Services at Ciminelli. Together, we're going to talk about what sustainability, social responsibility, and governance mean for the future of Western New York and Ciminelli's dedication to serving as a model for responsible business practices in the real estate and development industries. Alex, Can you start by telling us about the mission and goals of the Western New York Sustainable Business Roundtable and what inspired its creation and how it's evolved over the years?
Sure. So SBR was founded on Earth Day in 2014 by a collaborative group of businesses businesses, universities, government institutions with the intention of fostering cross-sector collaboration, leveraging collective knowledge, to implement sustainable initiatives that deliver tangible financial, social, and environmental returns. But SBR's evolution over the past 9 years has been most noticeable in our membership growth. We now work with over 70 member businesses within Western New York, and where the businesses who founded our organization really were going for a sense of corporate responsibility. They understood that sustainability was simply the right thing to do at the time, but now members are coming to us because they're starting to understand and to see the business case of sustainability, which is really exciting for us, and they're able to enjoy the more tangible benefits that I described, and others such as competitive advantage, mitigation of risk, reputational benefits that attract different stakeholders.
All right, and that's pretty much why we landed with you guys, and we've been partnering with you through our efforts as well.
Completely.
Yeah.
It was, early in our journey of figuring out where we wanted to get to. SBR was one of the first rooms that we got to where we kind of felt like, oh, geez, we're in the spot. This is great. And some of these people are ahead of us. We can even learn some things. Which for us, we were fumbling through the dark a little bit, and it was great because we felt, one, a sense of community very quickly. People are moving in that direction. And also that inspiration you get when you're sitting with people who meet or exceed your passion about something, which is really great. And so I think for us, it was a great shot in the arm in the last year as we were trying to get our thing up and running, to just realize that there's people out there, that we can, follow in now and then run alongside in the future, which is exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And Zach, can you provide an overview of your role and responsibilities as a team leader in charge of the Corporate Stewardship Initiative here at Ciminelli? And kind of branching off of that, I guess, what does sustainability, social responsibility, and governance really mean for Ciminelli now and in the future?
Yeah, so I serve on the leadership team here at Ciminelli, and in the last few years, we made a very deliberate decision to try to have a holistic approach to what we call corporate stewardship. We like that word because, as property managers for a really long time, it aligns with, kind of what we've always done and then the mindset we've always taken. And my role really was driving conversation at the leadership level in the beginning to very clearly define the purpose and the mission. There's a lot of ways that companies are going about, addressing this demand for kind of taking a stand in the world about what you believe in. And I think what those discussions got to me particularly and to everyone else was that who we want to do this for was everyone. And why did we want to do it? Because it'll make us a better company. And once we kind of got to that, which is like oh geez, that's a lot. But it is why we wanted to do it. It wasn't to speak to a call, it wasn't to check a box, and it wasn't to have something that our salespeople could drop off. It was to really, walk the walk and to demonstrate not just to external people, but really almost primarily to our employees, that we were taking this seriously and that we want them to see themselves in the actions of our company. The kind of the second part of your question, the now and the future, is that, what we found and what we were delighted to find when we dug in and really canvassed the company for great ideas and stories was that it is our way to be doing this already, and that we for the 20 years almost I've worked here, and for the 40 years we've been in business in Buffalo, we have done this already. And so collecting those ideas, one was kind of easy. We have so many things we did, but what we quickly realized was that there was an opportunity to focus that energy and to identify a few core causes and principles that we want to support. I say not, avoiding politics because politics is part of it, but this is not about politics for us. It's about really being very intentional about our values and employees seeing it and feeling it. And so, once we defined that purpose and kind of said like, hey, we're doing this for real, I loved it and I'm passionate and I wanted to be a part of it. And we put a call out to the departments. And kind of, like I talked about with SBR, kind of when we got that team in the room, which Mackenzie's part of that team, I'm really representing, our marketing and sales efforts and taking that perspective. We got that same, collaboration feeling of people in a room who are passionate about something, who represent different ways and thinking about it. And that representation was very important from us in the beginning, that it needed to be a group that could speak for the entire company, all the different corners of what we do, which is anything and everything related to buildings. So, my role, which is really like one of the more rewarding things I've done professionally, was getting to organize and facilitate and just kind of keep this incredibly fast-moving train on the track. And like I said, it's very easy when you're sitting around with 6 other people who meet and exceed your passion, and who kind of bring their own flavor to it. And so that was that's the role I've played, and like I said, at this point now looking back, I think we all have a real sense of pride and ownership of what we've done, because we're all bought in on the mission, and what we know what we did this for. We know we did it because it's the right thing to do, and because we want to see ourselves reflected in the company we hope to work for a really long time.
Yeah. As Zach and Alex mentioned, collaboration was a huge part of this corporate stewardship initiative. How does Western New York SBR engage and collaborate with businesses, organizations, and the community to advance these sustainable practices?
Yeah, absolutely. And that really, Zach really set me up, because it's true, across a business, sustainability touches every department, and it's essential to have buy-in from all corners of the business, which is great to hear that Ciminelli kind of started from the top and then spread out to, senior leadership is important as well, the buy-in from senior leadership. But as previously mentioned about SBR, we work with over 70 member businesses ranging from small micro businesses, higher education, nonprofit, and some of the largest employers in our Western New York region. So we create a professional development platform for regional sustainability colleagues to connect, nurture a strong sense of belonging, and work together to make a real impact. For example, apart from working with these 70 member businesses, we get involved with other projects, other collaborations, and we are part of the NYSERDA Western New York Clean Energy Hub, which collaborates with a lot of other community organizations that Western New York normally or SBR wouldn't have connected with, and other nonprofit organizations to help implement the goals of the New York State Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, which was passed in 2019, specifically assisting with the just and equitable transition to a clean energy economy, so focusing on the disadvantaged communities that are in Western New York, but not only so working with our diverse member businesses, but also expanding our reach to these maybe like you wouldn't necessarily think the more traditional areas SBR would get into. It allows us to help break down the silos that are commonly found in our area and build more bridges between organizations and individuals that, maybe seem unrelated, but actually are extremely beneficial. And that's something that we really need to do more of in Western New York, is breaking down the silos, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. Some other organization is probably already doing something that you're looking to get into, and if you can just help each other to amplify your mission and work together and collaborate. So that's what SBR also, we like to see ourselves as a nice connector and a good bridge builder between organizations and individuals.
Yeah.
To build off of that point, I think what we've found is there's a shorthand of when you're in SBR, we kind of already know why we're all there.
Right.
So when you're talking to other people, there's not, I think, what exists in a lot of other rooms where you have to do a preamble and an explanation for motivation and hey, we're really doing this for this. It's kind of like, we're all here, we're in the foxhole together.
Right.
And even ideas that wouldn't traditionally fall into SBR's mission, we've had great, very early collaboration with people who just kind of understand that our companies are kind of pushing in the same direction. We should just be talking about it because we're aligned in some ways. And even if we can't quite see today how we might be great partners or anything else, it is just good for our region. And we're all here for the advancement of it. So I think we felt like immediate dividends on that, because it's like it's one of those warm rooms where we feel like it's our people.
Right, exactly.
The networking is essential. When one business is doing something, if another business can grow from it, it's helping overall.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you just had the successful summit event too.
Thank you.
And just hearing all the feedback, it sounded like it really was a win for everybody to be in the same room and kind of hearing what everybody else is doing, and also drawing comfort from it, because it can be such a big topic and somewhat controversial too, I think. And so, having everybody there and say like, this is what we're doing and this is why it's important, especially in this region, sounded like it was really special.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a good success. We're happy.
And this, I guess, both of you can kind of weigh in on your opinions here, but what are the key factors that you think really drive businesses to become more sustainable or environmentally conscious? And that can be overall or just in Western New York alone.
Yeah, I think what Alex said just a few minutes ago is start of it, which is that people have recognized that it is good business to adopt sustainable practices. And not even, in traditional measurements. You can save money and you can find ways to do things more efficiently, which is just, that's the word we always used at Ciminelli, which was just efficiency. And it's what we found is like, we were being very sustainable, especially on our property management teams, because we were reusing and repurposing and all the things that we did because it was just the right way to do it. And but now there's that attention to it. And I think also there's a market evolution regarding consumer and investor habits. And more than ever, people across demographics choose to financially support companies and businesses that align with their own principles. And, as an employer, what we've stepped up on is that it's no longer okay to just sit out topics that might be controversial, and that we have to stand for something, and that while, that matters externally, of course, that really it's about delivering on a promise we make to our employees, so that they can see and believe the company they work for. So I think that's at least our angle. Alex, do you have any other thoughts about why other businesses are kind of getting to that point?
No, I think you covered a lot of them, and particularly that last one I think is not always foreseen by businesses is honestly the recruitment of new talent, because these younger generations are explicitly saying over and over the most important topic to them is climate change. And so Gen Zs are going to make up almost 70% of our workforce, and they're not interested in working for a company that's not prioritizing sustainability. So what are you going to do when 70% of the workforce doesn't want to work for your company? You're going to make your company obsolete. You won't be able to attract the talent that other companies are doing. And so that's a real one that isn't honestly recognized, and it's good that Ciminelli has already got their eyes forward on that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been based on the direct feedback we've heard from employees.
Right,
That this is what they care about. This is why they choose companies now. And so I think it's the evolution for us is that I think we do a better job of listening and hearing that feedback into action lately. But that's where we got it from, certainly. So that's great.
So what resources, programs, and support does SBR offer to local businesses that are looking to become more sustainable and responsible?
Yeah, absolutely. So at our core, we are a member-driven, member support organization that supports businesses and organizations on their sustainability journey by providing education, resources, networking opportunities, and for businesses to implement the sustainability initiatives to really integrate and deliver on the tangible returns we've already discussed. So each month, more specifically, we host events that feature subject matter experts who provide insights into topics and megatrends that are relevant to Western New York organizations, both now and in the future. We also emphasize kind of B2B learning. So we hear from our members that the subject matters are great and theory is great, but they also want to see actual results. They want to see case studies, and we've got a whole member organization that are working towards these initiatives. And so we like to highlight our member businesses, bring them in as subject matter experts or speakers, tour their facilities, and allow them to highlight their own successful case studies, and allow other businesses to really dig into the weeds and ask them, how did you achieve this? What were your lessons learned? What were some barriers you came into contact with? And I think our members find that really, really valuable to learn from each other as well. So all of our events, we do the heavy lifting, right? We pick the organization, we pick the relevant topics. All we're asking is that people attend and learn and buy into the network. So all of our events are actually free to every single employee of our member organizations, which is unique to us. We don't have an employee limit. So, and that also helps because that doesn't mean we're only targeting the sustainability team or professional. We're asking for cross-department involvement within our events. And then we also open it up to the public for a small ticket fee. And we accept applications on a rolling basis. So employee or member businesses can apply throughout the year to start kind of reaping the benefits of membership. But also something that we're finding as a real payback, and it's kind of been touched on here, is that most of the individuals who attend our events leave feeling quite energized and armed, not only with new information and sustainability strategies, but also the realization that they're not alone, which is something that Zach has already kind of spoke to a little bit. But this is even more valuable for businesses who are smaller and don't have the luxury of an ESG team or a department. And so that leads a lot to this enormous burden falling sometimes on a single individual, and that is daunting at best. So when these individuals come and see that there's this community that they can rely on, it's actually providing this kind of really needed support for sustainability professionals, because it can sometimes feel like you're trying to move mountains, you're trying to achieve this incredible goal, and sometimes it's like, how am I even going to do this? And so we're trying to provide a network where people can say, hey, I'm really having this issue, have you experienced this before? And maybe some of our larger organizations can lend a hand, or they've paved the way, and so they can help look back and help out the smaller organizations who need that support as well.
And I think it speaks to kind of the community you guys have built, that new members feel very welcome, and then the generosity of people to freely share information is really, it's beyond anything I've experienced in other organizations like that, where even if you get along because we do the same jobs, there is a little of that. We work for different companies, and we felt none of that. It really and it's because of the mission. Because any of us who are passionate about it know we need all the allies and help and people on the ship that we can. So I think everyone who shows up gets that, like, hey, you're in the right place, and it's whatever. So I appreciate that, because you guys clearly have built that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's something unique, I think, to ESG, that it's not about what industry you're in or even competition between businesses. It's that in order for us to actually make an impact, we do have to come together, and we have to learn from each other, and that's where we're going to see the most growth.
Right.
Well, and to build on that, I think what SBR realized, and what really appealed to us and helped drive kind of our support, was the realization that, unfortunately, just doing it because we believe it's right has not broken through.
Correct.
We need to translate into business language the reasons why to do it, and we're talking about them, and there's tangible and intangible, but that's a needed part. And I think that intermediary step that sometimes people whose heart are absolutely in the right places, well, that sounds like logistics and planning, and I have to talk to people who I disagree with. And really, that's where we're at. We do have to change some minds, but also just open people's minds so that they'd even listen. And I think that's the win, is adding to the group of people who are willing to listen and potentially be part of the solution.
Right. Absolutely.
And can you share some specific examples of sustainable and environmentally friendly projects or practices that we've implemented or even just included in our corporate stewardship report?
Yeah, for us, environmental sustainability really starts with our development and our property management and tenant improvement teams, just because of their business operations provides us that opportunity. On the development side, I'll highlight, some of our massive projects over the last few years. Our Conventus building was one of the first certified LEED Platinum buildings in the state. Fought for funds that would improve the surrounding infrastructure in that area as part of that project, which is really great and meaningful to us. Our Bethune Lofts is a LEED Silver project that we built as market rate apartments. We're currently converting them into condos, and that's again strategically located near public transportation to enable the further growth of the downtown medical corridor. And the 201 Ellicott project that we completed in the last couple of years was the city's first mobility hub, delivering a market downtown, to answer the need for a reliable food source, and also 201 affordable housing units. So really one of those projects that is incredibly meaningful for us as a company, because that is part of the demonstrating the commitment, is taking on a project which does not come easy, and there's challenges. There's reasons why many developers don't want those projects, but they're meaningful and they're necessary, and it's part of the commitment we've made on the development side, really from a responsible standpoint. And then from a day-to-day property management side, there are dozens, but to highlight a few of them, it's making sure that we have rewritten our specifications so that there's clean products being used at all of our buildings when at all possible. Landfill diversion initiatives for all of our clients, increased recycling programs, and not just sorting or single stream, but alternative recycling like light bulbs and electronics at our sites, and even taking a unique opportunity of electronics recycling drives that support great programs. We work with Sun King, and they have a great program to support Camp Good Days, and for years we've used kind of our healthy competition amongst our teams to really push trying to do the best that we can, and it's super rewarding for our team. But also when we go back to clients and say, hey, we really appreciate you participated. Here's what happened. We did, this amount of money was raised for this great cause, and that's part of that business reason, where people can say like, hey, if we were getting nothing out of it, that would feel great. But we're getting a ton out of it, and we're doing something great. This is cake and ice cream. We're winning, so the property management team, like I had mentioned, is really because our business started managing buildings for our owner, and we've expanded into working for all different types of companies with purposes. But at our core, we manage sites that we work on with an owner's perspective, like it's ours, and that means that you are ingenious about saving and tweaking and making things run smoother, and that approach is the same approach we've taken with all of our we call third-party clients, all of our other owners that we work with, and it's been appreciated because that's the only way we know. That's how we train our people. And so that property management side, it's really an everyday growth of those programs where someone comes up with a new idea and, oh geez, did you know there's a new pest control method that does? We didn't, but let's, and that's the success of the CSI team now is there's a place to go with that idea. I think, and even some of the feedback we got was that like, oh, I had a good idea, but maybe they mentioned it to one person and they didn't think it was much, and so it dropped. And now that we've been very intentional and vocal about it, I think various people of the team have had these reach outs in the days to come about things that people think are small. But I love, we have an employee here who came to me and said, hey, I saw that the janitorial companies are leaving a little too much toilet paper when they're throwing it away, and that's waste. And she's like, I'm not complaining. I'm like, you're not complaining. And I went to Mackenzie, I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
Like what we're, and she was like worried she was bothering me.
No.
She's not bothering me. It's wonderful because what it is for us is affirmation that this is real, and that everyone in their own little lane, in their job, in whatever they're doing, can do a little bit. Just like when you're walking through the parking lot and you stop and pick something up, you're helping. You're doing it. And so that's what we know, which is it can't be 6 people who make corporate stewardship a thing at Ciminelli. We can help organize it, but this really has to be something that people feel in their bones and they support because they know it's right, because it aligns with who they are, and that very rapid feedback that we've gotten from a number of people who had their own, little idea that they didn't think was a big deal has been really rewarding for us, because it affirms what Alex was talking about also, which is that this is what employees need to see. Mm-hmm. And that just providing the forum and the lane is giving people the permission structure to speak up.
Right.
Yeah.
And empowering them and making your mission very clear. Like you said, now you have 100 employees looking at all different corners of the company that 6 people can't see. And so they're going to be the direct line to you of saying, hey, I'm noticing this. And you're like, didn't even notice that, wasn't even on our radar. And so kind of empowering each person to be almost their own sustainability coordinator and keeping their eyes peeled for opportunities of improvement is only going to vastly enhance the business's success.
Yeah, it's incredibly exciting because it's that contagious factor, that we were talking about earlier, of just like once you feel that there's other people who are into it, or that, and this is the mission kind of we've talked about on the CSI team, is if people are speaking up, this is like a first impressions matter. We have to deliver immediately on hearing that, doing something about it, moving direction, at least having them feel like it was heard, considered, and that they got an answer back. And that's the, once we have that little spark of inspiration, we just have to foster it now and grow it. But we've got it. It's just that it's fun because it's I think we were ready to be patient for that feedback, and it's really exciting that kind of immediately what we got back was that employees loved it and that they really wanted to just hear more. And that they had a bunch of ideas.
Yeah.
So, that's great.
Yeah, that was something special that the CSI team did. I thought personally, internally, we have 9 departments, and so rolling this out and having conversations with employees and getting feedback and really putting that in front of them so they can digest it and understand it, and I think see a lot of these initiatives that maybe if they're not interacting with on a daily basis, they didn't know about them. So were there any specific insights or feedback that you thought were pretty interesting, or even positive surprises after you shared?
Yeah, you were speaking to some of them, and I'll start with just the CSI team. We're all engaged, passionate people who know what's going on in the company. And each of us, though, because we're all coming from our own perspectives and our own departments, our own functions, learned an absolutely wonderful thing. My big one is that I learned so much more about especially our marketing team's relationship with the Foundry, which is a fantastic local resource for learning for children and adults, and the partnership that we're forming with them was something that I'd kind of heard maybe we do something with them, but to get in depth that we're supporting and fostering a youth entrepreneurship program, which again by itself is a wonderful thing. But when you think of how we're stating our purpose and about an entrepreneurial spirit and what we believe, we're doing what we already do. We're doing things that are within our lane that we believe in, but we're also doing them and sharing them in ways that's helping grow and foster a community around us. That's like one of those, it's eureka. And for me, at least, when I hear stories like that about the company that I already love, I've been here forever, it's, oh man, there's even more. And that surge of kind of inspiration and motivation is I think something all of us felt in different ways. People who more work on the office side maybe heard about something in the field they've been doing forever and were blown away, and vice versa. And so that was great for us. But then as far as surprises in terms of as we started messaging outward, because of what we do, we know that people were passionate about environmental sustainability. Like I said, we had so many initiatives that we kind of had to just sort through them and figure out like what's the things that we should message, because there's too many great examples. But the great shock and kind of the rewarding shock was how much our employees responded to the community involvement pieces, and that was affirming, because very quickly we did an employee engagement survey a couple years ago, and it was the best survey that we've had since my time here in terms of how employees feel about working at this company and wanting to be here long term. It was great. But of course, like anything, we identified some takeaways where we're not as good as we are in other areas. And the 3 areas were, communication, kind of top to bottom, lack of commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and lack of community involvement. And so part of the creation of the CSI team was us realizing, like, we need to be more intentional about this. That we, for years, kind of avoided talking about those things we would do because we were humble and because we're supposed to do them, and we don't want people to think we're talking about it for that reasons. And I think what we finally got to as a group was that's not a good enough reason to avoid driving more attention and support to the causes and the principles we care about. And then we got to get over that feeling that like we're not going to tell them because people might think we're this or that. No, they'll think we care about the thing we're talking about, and especially if we're intentional and we're labeling it and we're following it up with real actions, not just a post and not just a picture, but that we get our hands dirty and do it. And so for that to come back, and overwhelmingly on the employee survey, that it was the community work, it was the charities that we support, it's the volunteer work we're doing, it's the wonderful, like, inspiring groups that we do great work with in the community, and not one or two people, dozens and dozens of people in our organization who spend time in addition to their job to give a little back. That was a surge from our employees of realizing, oh, we do a lot. I just didn't even know about it. And that, again, affirming for us, because part of the creation was to formally document and get the word out and to kind of own it, own our messaging and accept that responsibility. That's on us. We are a leader in our community. If we go out and we talk about causes we care about, more people will care about them. That means we got to do that. So that, while that I think makes sense to all of us, we still were not quite sure when we launched the messaging of what the responses would be, and to hear such resounding support and kind of excitement and, hey, who do I talk to if I have a great cause? Kind of that contagious. It was a wonderful surprise and really kind of, again, very affirming for the entire project.
Yeah, that was awesome to hear, especially after witnessing this team put in so much time and effort into this report, and then delivering a beautiful product, and then everybody loved it. And it's a great thing to be a part of and to witness.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we've talked about a lot of the positives. Obviously, there's going to be challenges. So Alex, are there any unique challenges or opportunities that businesses in Western New York are facing when they try to adopt some of these practices, and how does SBR help when addressing those challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, it's also changing the rhetoric a little bit. There are challenges, but primarily there are a lot of opportunity. And living in New York State right now is a really unique opportunity if you view it in that way, and that's something we're trying at SBR to change the mindset to opportunity. We have one of the nation's most aggressive climate action plans, and also availables to help, or incentives available to assist in achieving those goals. So it truly is an opportunity for businesses to get ahead of the curve compared to their competitors in the other states, to integrate sustainability at a higher level and allowing them to mitigate their risk, attract different stakeholders, and receive those financial returns. So at SBR, we're helping organizations embrace the new regulations and understand the incredible business opportunities they provide, which will only advance our region and make it a leader in climate action, ultimately bringing in more business opportunity anyway. And we understand not everything is perfect. There are, the climate action plan is doing its best, but, there are some worries and concerns about it. But we are trying at SBR to really highlight the opportunities for business that it's bringing, and the opportunity for growth in the region that it can provide. And so a little bit on maybe a little bit of a tangent, but something unique to Western New York as well that we're hearing a lot about is, and I'm not sure if any of you have heard it as well, is this slogan going around to describe Western New York as a climate safe haven.
Yes.
And I kind of feel compelled as a climate scientist myself, and my background is to be very cautious with this term, because in actuality I personally find it quite dangerous term to use, because make no mistake, there will be no part of this earth that's untouched by climate change and not impacted by climate change. And so and particularly the disadvantaged communities will be disproportionately, and it's not disadvantaged communities around the world, which is absolutely true, but it's also disadvantaged communities within our own Western New York region. And by continuing this slogan, I find it potential that we might remove some of the urgency and some of the responsibility to act, and that's not what we need right now. We need that urgency. We need to understand that, this is the time for action. And so we all remember the traumas of the blizzard last year, and this summer provided the hottest temperatures on record, both of which brought devastating impacts to our region and to human life. And so while we are extremely fortunate to live in this area and to have the natural resources that we do, I just don't want anybody to become mistaken or complacent to what the future is going to hold. And I just don't want any of the urgency to be lost and the momentum to be lost on this climate safe haven that people might be mistaken about that Western New York might become.
No, I think your perspective on that is really helpful, because it does trigger some sense of complacency.
Right.
So I think that's a great note.
Thanks.
And for Ciminelli, this is really our first year of compiling all of this data and tracking our progress. Zach, can you talk about that process a little bit and what it's going to look like over the years, and maybe even some potential obstacles or even opportunities, like you said, Alex, that present themselves?
Yeah, so the biggest obstacles are actually determining how to have a repeatable and sustainable process to track all the information we'd like to track. And what I mean by that is, for this last 15 months of work to get this on its feet cannot be done every year. It was a project to figure out how we do it, but our challenge over the next year, it's what we're most actively working on in the next few months really, is to set a calendar and a schedule and a processes in place to easily and efficiently gather all the data that we need on a yearly basis. In some of those cases, really from a nuts and bolts standpoint, obviously one of the biggest items is reducing carbon footprint. Even for right now, we are not in a position to, for all the buildings we manage, accurately control and influence all of that energy. So we're in a position where we need to, one, get some owner buy-in for potential investment in tracking software, but also just learn from other people in the area what the best metrics are and what the best ways to do it. And that's where we stand kind of in our journey, is knowing that it needs to be data driven. And certainly if you look through our report, you see lots of great stats that, but like I said, the biggest challenge for us is now making this a recurring and repeatable event that doesn't require people who all of us have day jobs. Ciminelli is not yet in a position where we can have dedicated sustainability people. And so while we love it and we were energized by it, thank God we were energized by it, because we needed the energy. And so really our big obstacle now is making this something that we got to do every year. We got to do it right. We have to have our vision for where we go with this, and kind of getting it from this one-time startup project into a recurring business.
Alex, looking into the future, what are some of the key sustainability trends and goals that Western New York SBR is focusing on in the coming years? And how can our local businesses align with these trends?
Yeah, so what we're seeing is reporting frameworks really coming into focus. The European Union is far advanced in fact that they have several frameworks, and they've gone through several iterations of their frameworks. The Security Exchange Commission of the United States has been working on their first draft and trying to get that into regulation. But you're seeing some states like California just recently said, we're not waiting any longer. They put out their own reporting framework and their own requirements for businesses to start holding them accountable for scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. And so that's something we're really focusing on, and what we identify as where our businesses are really interested in and a little bit concerned, because there is a lot of information out there and they need to understand which reporting frameworks they actually need to align with, and how they can begin reporting on them and gathering that data. Like Zach just said, it's a lot of businesses have never even thought to start gathering and tracking this data, which is going to be essential. And while that might seem, like, oh, those are the big companies' problems, those are the publicly traded companies' problems, that is true to some extent, but they are far-reaching, because there's something called scope 3 emissions that publicly traded companies are having to report out on, and that is their upstream and their downstream emissions. So that's talking about, okay, where are our suppliers getting their products from? How are they sourcing them? And then also, what is our end user what are they doing with our product at the end. So really doing a complete life cycle analysis of the product or the service that they're providing. So when they are looking at suppliers, and that includes some smaller and medium-sized businesses, they're going to sign contracts with sustainable businesses, and those businesses who have already begun integrating sustainability, and they're not going to work with businesses who are unsustainable, because if their supplier is sustainable, that's going to help them reduce their Scope 3 emissions, and that's what they need to do. So these reporting frameworks actually end up influencing almost all businesses, and they need to be aware of them, but also use it as an opportunity. So begin integrating sustainability before the regulation touches you, and then market yourself to these larger businesses as a sustainable company, which will only, increase your competitive nature against your own other competitors. And so what we do is we create an education calendar every year that aligns with what we think the megatrends that we're seeing, and helping our businesses understand those and integrate those into their business plan.
Yeah. It can be overwhelming to get started, I think, with all of the data and trends out there.
Sure.
So what
Absolutely.
advice would you give to businesses and individuals who are looking to make that positive impact through sustainability and social governance in their own communities?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you're a business, I would advise joining SPR. But, in all seriousness, for businesses, you kind of start with the more digestible areas. So go after the low-hanging fruit, switch to high-efficiency energy, or lighting, put low-flow faucets and toilets in your facilities, create a recycling plan. Like, go after the ones that you'll see immediate financial returns on those investments, and that will only kind of help the momentum build, and then move forward from there. So talk about assessing employee satisfaction, reducing waste production entirely, investing in communities. That's something I was really pleased to hear Zach talking about earlier, because there is a whole social component to sustainability, and investing in and bringing up your own surrounding communities is only going to help your business and the progress towards sustainability in our region. So providing financial investment, but also volunteer time for your employees, allowing them to volunteer with the community organizations that they feel really passionate about. And then, obviously something we've already talked about is, making the sustainability mission very clear throughout the organization. Making sure you have senior leadership buy-in is really important, because then they can really spread the message and influence it and get on board with when the sustainability professional comes in and says, hey, this is how we're going to more achieve this goal. They won't receive so much kind of like pushback or need to convince as much. And then, like we said, it's just creating a sustainability coordinator out of almost every employee and allow them to help advance your mission and goals. And then also, like I said a little bit earlier, right now we have so much unique incentives available, particularly for clean energy. So updating your HVAC, weatherization, solar installation, things like that. There's so much money out there right now that our state and our federal government is trying to give to businesses and also individuals. There's whole residential programs that can help with this. And I just think if you don't tap into it now, you're going to be kicking yourself later when regulation is now forcing you to do it and there are no longer any incentives. So just be forward thinking, like get your eyes on where the money is and just start making those upgrades now. And then we have join our event on January 24th because we'll be talking about the Community Climate Leadership Protection Act coming up, any updates on that, and also more available incentives. So that's on January 24th.
And what about you, Zach? What advice or insights would you offer to other companies in the real estate or development industries to enhance their initiatives and then make a positive impact on the environment and the community in which we live?
Yeah, my advice is to take advantage of the opportunity that exists if you work in commercial real estate. The Department of Energy reports that 18% of the energy in our country is still related to the operation of commercial buildings. That number is down from about 30% before COVID, but still represents a sizable opportunity that anyone in this area can do. It's why I said in the beginning, the environmental sustainability part, once we kind of did the call out and pulled back everything, we're like, oh darn, because this is our business and because we've been trying to save money and do all these things for a long time, we've been taking advantage of most of the incentives. We've been ahead on that. We've been talking, and so that's where, if you are working in this industry and you're not, putting out those recycling programs, talking with NYSERDA and coming to events to learn about some of the free money for your buildings you can fix, then you're really just leaving opportunity on the table. And and I'm speaking, very specifically from a business-oriented mindset. In addition to all the other reasons we talked about that are intangible about what that signals to your employees and what that means to your clients in the future, what potential investment arms who largely control large amounts of the real estate in this country, what they will be making their decisions on as well. And so I think the advice is really just to get in the game and talk about where you think you want to make an impact, define a couple of those core areas. Like Alex said, and I kind of take for granted, get alignment at the leadership level. Our leadership is very forward-thinking, very interested in it, wanting, very proactive in us wanting to get on board. We don't want to wait to be asked what our programs are. We want to have it ready. But that is absolutely necessary. It made every other bit of this afterwards easy because we knew we had carte blanche to build this the right way, without a strict mission, but with that kind of Ciminelli mindset of like, let's do this job right and let's do it once, and if that means we have to throw more people at it, we do it. But that entrepreneurial bootstrap mentality, but that's kicked down from our leadership, and because we all had that, we ran free with knowing that we kind of our hearts are in the right place and we have enough people in the room to check each other. That's great. We're going to end with a product that we feel proud of, and we really are, and that's the best part of it, is that we really feel like it's something that is worthy of it. I give Mackenzie a lot of credit. She turned a lot of people's really great ideas and content into something that I really think is a beautiful product that we're getting great feedback on. So it's been great, but the very first steps, while you feel like you don't know what you're doing, are the most important ones. And so my advice is to set a meeting tomorrow and talk about how you're going to do it, and then join SBR, because it will help. It will help for sure. Yeah. And specifically, obviously, if it's related to your building, which buildings draw a lot of energy. At Ciminelli, we develop new buildings, we outfit existing buildings, we have LEED accredited professionals across our organization, and we've got decades and decades of experience in managing things the way that we would want our own homes and buildings managed. And so, we absolutely see this as opportunity in the future, to be a leader, but to also offer those services. So if you're wondering, if your building could use a lighting retrofit, or your roof needs to be replaced, and you're wondering if there's a better way to do it, then please reach out to Ciminelli Real Estate.
Yeah, this has been a fabulous conversation, and it's only beginning. I can't wait to see where this takes SBR, and you've already done such a great job, I think, of impacting the community, and so I'm sure the growth is going to be immense. And for us, this is year one, so we're gonna see where this takes us. But
just the start.
But I appreciate both of you being able to take time and really talk about this, because it is an important topic, and I hope that it resonates with the community and that people can learn from what we're doing here and what SBR is doing.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate being invited on, and we've been more than happy to welcome Ciminelli into our member network. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Ciminelli Chats. We hope you've enjoyed our conversation about sustainable business practices and corporate responsibility in Western New York. It's clear that sustainability isn't just a buzzword, but a crucial part of shaping a brighter future for our community and our planet. We'd also like to thank our special guests, Dr. Alexandra Holland and Zach Melas, for taking the time to share their valuable insights and experiences with us. If you're curious for more, Ciminelli's Corporate Stewardship Report is linked in the show notes, as well as Western New York SBR's website, where you can join their newsletter list to stay on top of upcoming events and local sustainability info. Don't forget, subscribe to Ciminelli Chats wherever you get your podcasts, and share this episode with anyone who may be interested in listening. We'll be back soon with more exciting discussions and valuable content. Until next time.